intermission here, I guess. Normally when I'm at Rotary events, I'm tagging along as the spouse of Mr. Marshall Chamberlain. But today, I'm here on behalf of the Community Action Network, which is, once again, gotten a grant from Rotary. That Community Action Network oversees 6 community centers within the county. 3 of them are public housing sites at Highcombe, Greenbacks, and Creekside Court. There's also one in Brick Elementary School, which is probably one that most people don't know about because it's almost to Ohio, but in your bailiwick, so you do know that. And the Community Action Network at each of these centers provides after-school programs for students. It includes food if they need food. It includes a summer program where students spend most of the day at one of the CAN centers. And last year, Rotary supported a grant that enabled us to put in a new kitchen in Brook Elementary. Before that, CAN has always survived by who's redoing their kitchen, can we get a refrigerator, or can we get a stove? And Brick had a fair number of hand-me-downs, and it now has a kitchen in which the appliances match, there's enough storage, and it really works. And partly because of that, the theme of the summer programs at CAN centers this year is going to be on food. And that involves learning about food, learning about nutrition, looking at recipes, cooking stuff in the kitchen, taking the recipes home. And so it's perfect that Brick can now be included in that process. The curriculum will include some focus on what do we know about healthy foods? How would you know one if you saw one? How would you know an unhealthy one if you saw one? It will also include a sense of a way to keep up the academic skills that students have developed in school so that they don't get the summer melt, and trying to do things that draw on their skills and develop their skills. And it will also allow them to interact with one another and learn how to, in the kitchen, it's a team of people. If we're gonna make lunch, who's gonna put the peanut butter on the bread, who's gonna do whatever, and how are we gonna get it done on time so that we have the opportunity to eat. And that the food in this case will also involve some component of art, because that's an important part of CAN's summer program. So whether it will be drawing a picture of a peanut butter sandwich or what, I don't know yet, because they're still developing the curriculum. But it will involve, learning about foods and nutrition. How do you read the label on the side of the Cheerios box? How would you recognize a food that's good for you and one that's not so good for you? It will also involve looking at recipes. What's a recipe for? We're going to make this. Who's going to do what? I'm not sure anybody's going to be chopping onions, but there will be, you do this, we'll do this. Who goes first? Who goes second? So the teamwork of working in a kitchen. And they'll bring in some people who run restaurants and talk about how a kitchen works in a place that is behind closed doors when you go there for dinner, if you get the chance. It will also involve working their academic skills. For instance, math. Suppose you give students a recipe for 2 people and say, but they're going to be 6 for dinner. How do you scale it up? Or it's a recipe for 8 and there are only 3 of you. How do you scale it down? Fractions for someone will be a piece of cake, and fractions for someone will be a stretch. It will also work the science side of it. What do we mean by nutrition? When you look at those things that are on the side of the Cheerios box, what's niacin? What's whatever? Why should you care? Do you get enough of this and you get too much of this, that, and the other thing? It's also a time when you can experiment. So we have this recipe. what would happen if you put in more salt, or took the salt out, or put in some, chili flakes that aren't in the recipe? And you could have one team doing the stuff with chili flakes, another team doing it without the chili flakes, and then eating it for lunch and see which recipe works. So that there's a real chance here to think about, these are ingredients of a recipe. Somebody invented them. Maybe there's better ones. What would what would your family do with this recipe? And it also allows them to learn how to put food together, how to produce food, to take food home. They have the opportunities to take the recipes home, take some ingredients, try it out. And they learn about, so in your family, what are the favorite foods? What are the traditions? Where did that tradition come from? Do you really like it? And share those traditions, and maybe say, bring in a recipe, we'll make that next week. And so a sense of food as a part of everyday life that's different in different families, and the opportunity to learn something from that. So all of this will fill up the summer, I think, in very good ways. We have food we'll be able to send home with students who, would like to try that recipe, but we don't have any of that. Well, here's a can of whatever it is, or a pound of something else, and report back. Tell us what's going on. Talk about, what does food mean in your family, and where did that come from? And so the sharing of recipes and the sharing of food cultures, in a sense, will be very much a part of this. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how this rolls out, and going and observing sometimes, but certainly the support of Rotary in this case will buy food to fill in things we don't get out of the food pantries that we already run, and buy some kitchen tools so that each of the kitchens in the 6 centers have whatever they need, whether it's a cheese grater or a set of tongs or something the students need as they learn about what's it like to work in a kitchen. What tools do I need to do a good job of this? And I think it's going to be a wonderful summer, and I think that the students are going to have a very good time. They're going to get some laughs out of this, because some of the stuff may not appeal to them in the long run. Some of the experiments may fail. Experiments do fail, and I think the sense of satisfaction that comes from trying something that nobody's done before, changing the recipe, and saying, hey, I like this better, will be a part of this for lots of the students. So we look forward to that, and we thank Rotary for their support.